part of the biggest message that I delivered today was really related to the fact that everybody kind of thinks that we're going into a recession.
We were just talking about that earlier.
Yeah. I mean, the news is bad, the media is pushing it in that way. You'd almost think like we're falling into a recession right now.
Yeah.
The challenge is that there are financial indicators that are pointing some warning signs, inversion of the yield curve and things like that, but the real economic fundamentals are solid. And in the session, we talked about the fact that we have 7.4 million job openings in the country right now, 6.3 million people looking for work, so we just don't have enough workers.
Right.
And while the media would say, oh, we're slowing down in terms of jobs, frankly, what is happening is we run out of workers. Small businesses claim that this is the biggest issue that they have on their dockets right now, and everyone in the room was complaining that was the same issue also. You can't expand your business without new people, and we are really challenged in this environment. Everybody's working and wages are rising, which is great for spending and great opportunities for spending overall, which we see really happening pretty much throughout the United States. Now, parts of the United States have been impacted a bit because of tariffs. Those tariffs have had some challenges, and certainly in the farming community and sectors. And I've traveled the United States recently in Des Moines, and definitely see that front and center. And of course, we always have weather issues, flooding and those types of things. Those are creating some additional challenges for farmers. But in general, most areas of this economy are really performing quite well. I think the other things to think about is, and it's an area we've been following very, very closely of late, and it's really a tremendous amount of disintermediation that is happening with bank card balances. Let me explain. Credit card balances, people revolve balances, etc. What's been happening of late is a lot of those balances have been kind of skimmed off to unsecured installment lending. Recall that bank cards are unsecured revolving credit. This is unsecured installment credit. And they've really taken off. About 40% of that activity is from fintechs. So they're taking away some of those balances. And in fact, credit unions, smaller community banks are going to be very much impacted by this movement of dollars. In fact, those are generally the more profitable balances because they're revolving, they're making money on those. A lot of financial institutions that I go talk to over the last year and a half saw the outstandings growth rate balances on cards going down. They saw that going down, and they attributed it to the economy doing well and people paying off balances, et cetera. No, that's not the case. It's been this siphoning, or we call it disintermediation, away from bank card space. Now again, our estimates have shown that over the last couple of years, it's amounted to about 5% of all of those balances being skimmed off. And again, those are the most profitable balances. That's where people that are listening to this video are making their money. And so we have to start waking up to the fact that this is in front of us and this is happening overall. And how do you combat it? Well, let's think about the pricing that we have in place. Let's think about the fact that really hasn't changed substantially in 30 years. Unsecured installment loans, these fintechs that are doing this are often much lower cost. Think about the whole process for someone getting a credit card in your organization. That application for the process for a fintech is very, very simple. They've made it simple. So part of going along with the way of what's been happening in the industry, and this is pretty fundamental shakeup, has to be analyzed and understood for them to be successful. One of the things I think that's really important is to start thinking about your portfolio, your credit card portfolio, and the risk aspect of it. When I start thinking about when the next recession is going to come, and when no one's going to have a perfect crystal ball, and that I'm saying that first quarter 2021 we're vulnerable, but it's out there a little bit.
Right.
So what do you use? What are the tall tale indicators that people on this video that can watch this and say, what can I use to understand my program better? And here's two really hard fact ones that we've developed. One of them is we look at 90-day delinquencies, which is somebody that's seriously delinquent. This isn't a sloppy payer. This is somebody that's seriously delinquent. It turns out there's a very strong correlation with that and average weekly hours worked, as well as initial jobless claims. I mentioned the 50-year low. They're very strongly correlated. The average weekly hour gives, when that starts to tick up, or go down, I should say, the number of hours worked goes down. That gives an 11-month lead time to 90-day delinquency starting to rise. And initial jobless claims, as it starts to rise, it gives a 10-month leading index to when 90-day delinquencies are going to start to rise. So that is a great sign for you to watch, easy to access numbers. You can get those right from the news. And I would watch those very closely because those may be the first signs that there is additional risk coming to your portfolio. How are you reserving for it, managing it, thinking about your call units and answering the phone calls on collections and those types of things. I think that's a key takeaway as we are in this environment of a slowdown that's going to come sooner or later. You know, if we get to July, it'll be the longest expansion in history ever. But they don't die of old age. So we have to keep an eye on what would cause them to start to falter as we think about the future.